The night in Bewley village was quiet, but it was not peaceful. Crickets sang from the tall grass, and the moonlight poured over the broken clay road that led from the marketplace to the river. Yet inside every home, behind every curtain, behind every cautious stare, there was tension, heavy, waiting, watching. The rumors of the warlords spreading into the region had reached the old men who sat under the baobab tree at dusk, and even the children who once played freely now looked over their shoulders, as if the wind itself carried danger. In the chief's compound, Ebony sat alone. She was seated before the carved wooden ancestral mask, the same mask her grandmother had prayed in front of, the same mask her mother had sung to while braiding her hair. But tonight there were no songs, only silence, and the steady drumming of her own heart. She whispered, voice trembling, "Ancestors, guide us, for our home is trembling." The flickering oil lamp beside her cast long shadows across the walls, like silhouettes of spirits dancing. But the spirits gave no answer. Footsteps approached from behind. Ebony did not need to turn. The scent of river mud and smoke told her exactly who it was. "Chinaza," she sighed softly. The young warrior stepped into the room, broad-shouldered, skin glistening from training, his spear slung across his back. But his eyes were troubled. He knelt before her, not as a warrior, but as the child she had once known. "Ebony," he said, voice low, "the reports from the scouts are worse than we feared. The warlord Kofia has reached the borderlands. He will arrive in less than 5 days." Ebony's fingers tightened around the beads in her palm. The name Kofia was one the village did not speak lightly. He was known as the breaker of peace, a man who built his strength through fear, his wealth through plunder, and his army from stolen sons. His men wore black cloth across their faces and carried rifles older than themselves. Where they walked, fields turned empty and laughter died. And now, he was coming here. "But there is more," Chinaza continued, though the words seemed to claw inside his chest. Ebony turned slowly. "What more?" Chinaza swallowed. "Kofia travels with a girl, a young girl, bound in gold chains. They say she is the lost daughter of Arimo." Ebony stood so quickly the lamp flickered. The lost daughter. The child everyone believed had vanished 5 years ago during the burning season. The child of the neighboring chief, a symbol of unity and hope. A child taken, presumed dead. Her loss had fractured alliances across the region. "Are you certain?" Ebony whispered. Chinaza nodded once. "I saw her myself," he said. Her eyes, they were like hers, like the moon over water. "You remember." Ebony remembered too well. The girl had been full of laughter, always placing flowers in her hair, always singing. She used to call Ebony Mama Ebony, clinging to her waist when visiting Bewley. Ebony pressed a hand to her mouth, breath shaking. "If Kofia holds her," she said slowly, "he will use her as a weapon. He will force the chiefs to kneel. No one will dare fight him while the lost daughter lives." Chinaza's jaw tightened. "That is why we must act." Ebony stepped back. "You speak of war. I speak of survival. You speak of blood." He did not deny it. Outside, the drums of the village began to sound, slow, steady, calling the council to gather. The decision of a lifetime was about to be made. Ebony looked out the doorway toward the moonlit courtyard, where warriors gathered with torches, shadows long and flickering. She whispered, barely audible, "If we fight, we risk everything. And if we do not?" Chinaza asked. Ebony closed her eyes. "Then we lose everything." In the council hut, the elders gathered beneath the woven ceiling. Clay incense burned. The air was thick with memory and fear. Chief Adio, old and proud, leaned on his carved staff. He looked at Ebony. "Daughter of Nkem," he said, "you speak first." Ebony stepped forward. Her voice was steady, though her heart trembled. "War is coming, whether we open our gates or not. But there is a child among them, a child the world thought gone. If we save her, we save more than a life. We save unity. We save hope." Murmurs rippled, but one voice cut through the room like a blade. Old Mother Nana, blind but wiser than all of them, spoke from her corner. "You do not fear the warlord," she said. "You fear what his arrival awakens in you." Silence struck the room. Ebony did not deny it. She remembered the rebellions, the night she lost her sister, the fire she swore she would never return to. Mother Nana lifted her face toward the air. You must choose, remain the caretaker of peace, or become the woman the ancestors once shaped you to be. The warrior, the leader, the flame. Ebony opened her eyes, and for the first time in years there was steel in them. We ride at dawn, she declared. The warriors stomped their spears against the ground. Chinaza lowered his head, relief washing over him. The battle had not yet begun, but the fire had. The first breath of dawn had not yet broken, but the village of Mbuli was already awake. Warriors moved silently through the compound, wrapping leather around their wrists, sharpening blades, testing the strength of bowstrings. The air carried the scent of forge smoke and wet earth from the riverbank. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster called, confused by the unnatural stirring of the village before sunrise. Ebony stood in the courtyard where the sacred baobab tree cast its long shadow over the land. She wore a long indigo cloth tied tightly across her chest, her hair braided close to her scalp, each braid adorned with a single thread of gold. Her mother's spear, carved from ironwood, the spearhead engraved with ancestral runes, rested in her hand. She had not touched it in 5 years. Chinaza approached her quietly. You have not slept, he said. Ebony looked at him with a faint, tired smile. No leader sleeps on the eve of storm. Chinaza nodded, though his eyes held concern. Your heart carries weight. My heart always has. Before he could speak again, a horn sounded, long, slow, vibrating the very ground beneath their feet. The council had gathered. The gathering before the ride. The entire village stood around the central circle of packed earth. Elders, warriors, mothers, children, even the traders and the travelers who had arrived only days before. Everyone knew what was coming. Chief Adio stepped forward. He looked older than he had the night before. Or perhaps the truth of war had simply revealed the years that peace had hidden. He raised his staff. People of Mbuli, he began, voice deep and steady. The shadow of Kofia approaches our land. Some say we should hide. Some say we should submit. Some say we should wait. A hush fell. But we do not kneel, he continued, because we remember who we are. The crowd murmured, soft at first, then growing. We are children of the river and of the fire. We are born of soil that has never bowed. We stand with the spirits who stand with us. He turned to Ebony. And now, one among us rises to lead. Ebony stepped forward. The crowd stilled. Her voice carried like wind cutting through tall grass, clear, strong. I do not ask you to fight for me, she said. I ask you to fight for the children who must inherit this land, for the girl who has been stolen, for the memory of those who came before us, and for the tomorrow we refuse to give away. Silence. Then a warrior banged the butt of his spear against the ground. Boom. Another joined. Boom. Then the entire courtyard thundered with the pounding of spears, sticks, staffs, fists. Boom. 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 The sound rolled through the village like thunder. The spirits heard it. The ancestors heard it. And somewhere far away, Kofia would feel it. Preparations for the journey. Bags of grain were tied to mulebacks. Water gourds were filled. Arrows were counted, fletched with feathers of gray heron. Spears were dipped in oil to shine in the rising sun. Chinaza approached Ebony with a wrapped bundle. What is it? She asked. He unwrapped a leather bracer, inlaid with polished bone beads. It belonged to your sister, he said softly. Ebony's breath caught. Her sister, Azima, had been fierce, unstoppable, unbreakable, until the night the flames of rebellion took her. Ebony took the bracer and slid it on her arm. It felt heavy. It felt right. We ride together, Chinaza said. We ride together, she echoed. Before they departed, old Mother Nana waited at the gate, seated on her woven mat. Though blind, she faced the rising light. Come to me, Ebony, she said. Ebony knelt. Mother Nana placed her wrinkled hands on Ebony's cheeks. You think fear weakens you, the old woman murmured. But listen, fear is the drumbeat of the living. Only the dead feel nothing. Let the fear guide you, not silence you. Ebony swallowed. Do you see the path, Mother? She asked. Mother Nana smiled faintly. I see many paths, but only one where your heart does not break. And that is the path where you do not walk alone. Ebony turned to Chinaza. He was already watching her. Mother Nana chuckled. So the ancestors have been whispering to both of you. Chinaza flushed, but did not hide his gaze. Ebony looked away quickly, but not before her heart pulsed. Warm, uncertain, alive. There would be time for that later, if they survived. The departure. The sun finally crested the horizon, gold spilling across the land like spilled honey. Ebony mounted her horse, a tall dun mare named Kizara. Chinaza rode beside her. 40 warriors followed. The riders held spears upright, tips glinting in the morning light like stars caught in mortal hands. Ebony lifted her spear. Mbuli, she shouted. The village roared back. We stand. We ride. We return. Hooves thundered. Dust rose. The village faded behind them. Ahead lay the wild lands, the open savanna, the river crossings, the dense forests. And somewhere beyond them, Kofia, his army, and a lost daughter. Ebony's heart pounded, not with fear, but with fire. The journey had begun. The storm had chosen its shape, and destiny was no longer waiting. It was already moving. The savanna stretched wide before them, endless golden grass rippling like waves under the mid-morning sun. The air shimmered with heat, and every hoofstep stirred dust that rose then sank again in slow spirals. The world seemed open, yet everything felt watchful. The land carried silence, but it was the silence of something waiting. The riders of Mbuli moved in formation, spears upright, footsteps measured. Their shadows stretched long behind them like ghosts they carried along. Ebony rode at the front, Kizara's mane flicking softly against her fingers. Chinaza rode to her right, scanning the horizon with sharp, hunter's eyes. 3 days' journey to the borderlands, he said, voice low. Ebony nodded. And on the 4th day, we face him. The words hung in the air, not feared, not denied, simply accepted. She had learned young that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to walk forward carrying fear as one walks carrying a child. Careful, steady, unflinching. The first night on the road, they stopped near a cluster of acacia trees where the ground sloped into a shallow stream. The warriors set camp quietly and efficiently, some collecting firewood, others filling gourds, others posting lookout positions. As dusk folded over the sky, the savanna turned purple and gold. Crickets began to sing. Ebony sat beside the fire, sharpening her spearhead with slow, deliberate strokes. Sparks jumped like fireflies. Chinaza sat across from her. The flames flickered between them, soft orange lighting the angles of his face. You fight with your heart, he said suddenly. Ebony paused. That is not a strength, she murmured. Not in war. Chinaza's gaze remained steady. It is the greatest strength. The heart is the only thing that makes survival matter. She did not answer, because she feared he was right, and that made it dangerous. The younger warriors. Nearby, 2 of the younger warriors, Tamuno and Kido, whispered to each other. I heard the warlord Kofia once fought 6 men at once, Kido said, eyes wide. Tamuno scoffed. Stories grow longer each time they are told. Perhaps it was 6, or perhaps it was one boy with a broken spear. Kido frowned. Still, the villagers at the border fled. They would not flee over a rumor. Tamuno's eyes darkened. No, they would flee because they saw death walking with feet. Ebony overheard. She did not correct them. Truth did not need sharpening. It was already sharp. Mother Nana's words. That night, as the fire died into embers, Ebony lay awake beneath the stars. The words of the blind elder echoed through her mind. There is only one path where your heart does not break. What path was that? What future did the ancestors see that she could not? The stars above glittered like distant, watching eyes. She closed her own. Sleep came slow, and with it, dreams. In the dream, she stood on the edge of a cliff. Below was a valley filled with fire. Smoke rose. Screams echoed. A hand touched her shoulder. She turned. It was Azima, her sister. Beautiful. Fierce. Gone. Ebony. Azima whispered, "Do not fear the fire. You were born from it." Ebony reached for her, but the dream slipped away like mist. She woke with tears drying on her cheeks. Kizara nudged her softly. The horse always knew. The journey continues. On the second day, the land changed. Grass gave way to cracked earth. Dust devils spiraled. Herds of gazelle watched nervously from the distance. The heat pressed down on them like a weight. Keto wiped sweat from his brow. "Even the sun wages war against us," he muttered. Shinaza glanced at him. "The sun does not choose sides. We are merely small beneath its gaze." Ebony lifted her hand. They halted. She listened. The wind carried something faint, so faint it might have been mistaken for nothing. A child crying. Her eyes widened. "Follow me," she whispered. The abandoned caravan. They followed the sound to a dried riverbed, where an overturned wagon lay broken. The cloth covering was torn, burned in parts, and supplies spilled across the dirt. And beside the wagon, huddled against a boulder, was a young boy. Thin, dust-covered, barefoot. His breaths came in short, terrified gasps. Ebony dismounted slowly and approached him with open hands. "It's all right," she said softly. "You are safe now." The boy flinched. "No one is safe. Not anymore." Shinaza knelt beside him. "What happened here? Who did this?" The boy's voice cracked. "Kofia." The name felt like a wound reopening. "He came through the valley this morning. He took the men. He said the boys must learn to be wolves, not lambs. That they took my brother." Tears ran down his dust-streaked cheeks. Ebony's heart clenched. She placed her hand gently on the boy's head. "What is your name?" "Lamu," he whispered. "Lamu," she said, "we will not leave your brother behind." His eyes lifted to hers, hope flickering like a dying flame trying to return to life. Ebony stood. Her voice was steady steel. "We move now." Shinaza nodded. No one questioned. The warriors mounted again. The boy rode with Ebony, small hands gripping tightly to her belt. The sun sank behind them, long shadows stretching ahead, toward the valley, toward the warlord, toward the fate that waited. The sun was sinking behind the low hills when Ebony and her warriors reached the edge of the Valley of Quiet Thunder. The land here changed. Grass gave way to stone and dust, and the trees grew twisted and sparse, as if they had once known songs but had forgotten the words. The wind whispered through them in slow breaths, and every whisper carried unease. Ebony dismounted and lifted Lamu gently down from Kizara's back. The boy clung to her arm before releasing her slowly, like someone letting go of the last branch above deep water. "Your brother is here," Ebony said softly, "and we will bring him home." Lamu nodded, though his eyes were wide and afraid. Shinaza stepped beside Ebony. "The scouts have returned," he said. "They found signs of a large camp in the gorge below. 40, perhaps 50 men. And the girl, yes, the lost daughter is among them." Ebony closed her eyes for a slow breath. So it was true. Fate was no longer a rumor in the wind. It had arrived. The warriors gather. The warriors formed a semicircle around her. Their faces were lit only by the last orange-gold wash of the fading sun. Their spears pointed toward the ground, steady, waiting. Ebony raised her gaze to them. "We stand on sacred earth," she said. "Our ancestors crossed this valley long before we were born. They walked it with fear in their hearts, but they did not stop. And because they walked, we are here." She lifted her spear. "We are not here to destroy. We are here to reclaim what has been stolen. A child, a brother, a daughter of the land." Eyes locked on her. Not one flinched. Not one doubted. "We move with honor," she continued. "We move with unity. We move as one heart." Shinaza stepped forward. "And we return as one," he said. The warriors struck their spears to the earth once. Thud! The sound rolled across the valley like a quiet thunderclap. Night falls. The camp settled in the shadow of tall rocks overlooking the gorge. Fires were kept low. Voices were muted. Even laughter, shared softly among some of the younger warriors, felt like something fragile, something to protect rather than celebrate. Ebony sat apart, tracing the carved symbols on her spear. The memory of Azima, her sister, drifted through her mind like smoke. Azima had always been fearless, but Ebony remembered the night after their village first burned, the night after loss had carved itself into their bones. Azima had sat beside her, holding her hand. "We are not made of our breaks," Azima had whispered. "We are made of what we choose to grow from them." Now, years later, Ebony felt that same fire rise inside her again. Not wild and reckless like before, but steady, clear, burning with purpose. Chinaza approached quietly and sat beside her. "You carry many worlds in your silence," he said. Ebony's lips curved into a brief, tired smile. "And you read them too easily." He did not deny it. For a moment, neither spoke. The valley wind brushed past them, carrying the distant sound of drums, slow, rhythmic, from the warlord's camp below. Not a song of celebration, a song of claiming. Chinaza finally spoke, voice low, steady. "No matter what happens tomorrow, you do not stand alone." Ebony turned her head. Their eyes met. No bright flare of romance. No rush of sudden emotion. Something deeper. A stillness shared. A knowing. She did not speak. She did not need to. The student becomes the voice. Later in the night, Tamuno, the younger warrior, sat sharpening arrows. His hands trembled slightly, though he tried to hide it. Ebony approached him. "You fear tomorrow," she said simply. He swallowed. "Yes." "Good," she replied. He looked up confused. "Fear is not the enemy," Ebony said. "Fear reminds us that what we are protecting is precious. If you did not fear, you would not care. And if you did not care, your spear would be hollow." Tamuno nodded slowly, and his hands steadied. The valley at dawn. When morning came, it did not roar. It arrived gently. A pale, cool gold spread over the valley, touching the rocks, the horses, the spears with soft light. Ebony stood. The warriors rose with her. Below, the gorge lay wide and shadowed. Smoke drifted from the warlord's camp. Shadows moved between tents. Voices echoed faintly. She could not yet see the lost daughter, but she felt her presence. Somewhere down there, a child was waiting for a world she thought had abandoned her. Ebony lifted her spear. Her voice was calm, clear, steady as stone shaped by years of wind. "Today we do not march to take lives," she said. "We march to return what should never have been taken." The warriors stepped forward. Chinaza swung into the saddle beside her. The horses pawed the earth. The sun crested the ridge completely, flooding the valley with gold. Ebony spoke one final time. "Let the land remember us." And together, silent, steady, unbroken, they descended into the valley, toward destiny, toward the storm, toward the moment the world would change. The descent into the gorge was slow, deliberate. The sun had now climbed fully into the sky, though its warmth did little to ease the chill that settled across the warriors' backs. The valley floor was a maze of stone shelves, thorn brush, and narrow pathways shaped by years of river water long gone dry. Every sound seemed amplified. The shifting of gravel beneath hooves, the hush of the horses breathing, the rhythmic pulse of ancestral memory in their chests. Ebony raised her hand. The warriors halted. From here, they could see the warlord's encampment clearly. Tents of rough hide were spread across a flattened basin of the gorge. Smoke curled from 3 central fires. Black-cloth warriors moved among crates and weapons. Their movements were practiced, precise, men shaped by command and fear. And there, near the largest tent, stood a girl. Her wrists were bound by chains of gold, dulled from dust, but still unmistakably precious. Her hair hung in tangled braids, beads chipped and mismatched. Her dress was faded, shoulders exposed to the sun's harsh touch. But her eyes were the moon reflected in deep water. Just as Chinaza had said, the lost daughter of Arimo. Her gaze drifted across the camp, far away, as though she had learned to live inside her own mind to survive the world outside it. Lamu, riding behind Tamuno, saw her. "That is how they took my brother," he whispered, voice tightening with memory. Ebony's heart clenched. They were not here for war. They were here for children. The first move. Chinaza leaned forward in his saddle, voice low. We must approach without threat. If we move quickly, they scatter. If we move harshly, the girl is used against us. Ebony nodded. She lifted her spear, not to strike, but to signal. The warriors dismounted. Hooves stilled. Dust settled. Only breath moved. Ebony stepped forward alone, not because she wanted to stand alone, but because leadership is never first about command. It is first about offering one's own life before asking for another's. She walked the stone path slowly, the heat brushing her face. Chinaza stayed just behind her, close enough to guard her, far enough to let her speak first. The wind quieted. The camp noticed. 3 of the warlord's men turned, rifles and spears in hand. Cloth masks hid their expressions, but their stance showed alarm. Authority. Training. One stepped forward, their captain, tall and lean with a scar across his jaw. You walk without permission, he said. Ebony did not bow. She did not flinch. I walk with purpose, she said. The man studied her. His voice dropped to something close to curiosity. You're the one they call keeper of Mbuli. Ebony held his gaze. I am Ebony, daughter of Nkem. I have come for the child who stands in chains. The captain's head tilted. That girl is no longer child, he replied. She belongs to Kofia now. She is a promise to every village who forgets who rules this land. Chinaza's jaw tightened. Ebony did not raise her spear. Her voice remained calm, like water before it becomes river. No child belongs to fear, she said. No life belongs to chains. The captain's eyes narrowed. For a heartbeat, something shifted in them. Not anger, but memory. Something old, something buried. Then he exhaled. You should leave this valley, he said, while you still can. The girl looks up. The lost daughter turned, slowly, as if waking from a long dream. Her eyes found Ebony. Recognition did not flash like lightning. It grew, like a flame coaxed back from dying embers. Mama! Ebony, the girl whispered, voice trembling, unfamiliar with being heard. The world stopped. Ebony's throat tightened, but she did not step closer. I have come to take you home. The girl's breath hitched. Home, a word she had not dared remember. Her lips parted, but then a shadow moved from the largest tent. Heavy steps, measured, certain. The camp parted. Men straightened. Breath tightened. Kofia emerged. He was not monstrous in form. He was broad, yes, and tall, yes, but it was not size that filled the valley. It was presence, a calmness too still to be natural, like a lion resting, not sleeping, never sleeping, only waiting. His coat was made of woven animal hides. Around his neck hung tokens, coins, feathers, carved bone, the broken beads of conquered chiefs. His eyes were not wild. They were controlled, cold like deep stone. He looked at Ebony as though they were 2 old stories meeting again. Well, he said, voice smooth, unhurried, almost gentle. So the flame of Mbuli has not gone out after all. Ebony met his gaze evenly. I have not come for your throne. I have not come to challenge your armies. I come only for the girl. Kofia smiled. Not laughter, but something shaped like memory and regret. Everything in this world has a cost. Ebony nodded once. Then name yours. His eyes flicked to the girl, then to Chinaza, then back to Ebony. I want what was taken from me, he said softly. Not land, not tribute, not submission, but something far deeper. A promise, he continued, that when the world chooses its future, you will stand with me. Not as enemy, not as rival, but as equal flame to flame. The valley held its breath. Chinaza's hand tightened on his spear. The warriors tensed behind the ridgeline. But Ebony's face did not change. She understood what he asked. He wanted unity. He wanted legitimacy. He wanted the one leader whose presence could calm the land to stand beside him. Not as ally, as second son, as balance, as mirror. The choice was heavy. The ancestors felt it. Even the wind stilled. Ebony spoke quietly. Her voice did not break. I will not stand with a future built on chains. Kofia inhaled, slowly, deeply, eyes lowering once, briefly, not in defeat, in acknowledgement. Then, if that is your answer, he said, Then the valley will decide which future lives. The sky did not roar. The earth did not split. But the moment changed. The valley shifted from silence to breath held before storm. Ebony lifted her spear, not as threat, but as truth. The lost daughter's chains glinted in the sun. Lamu's small hand gripped Temuno's shoulder tighter. Chinaza stepped to Ebony's side. Not behind, beside. The sun burned gold above them. The valley waited. The world listened. And destiny, finally, opened its eyes. The sun sank slowly behind the western hills, turning the horizon into a wash of amber and violet, as though the sky itself felt the weight of what was coming. In the village of Dalani, people moved quietly, their faces drawn with worry and expectation. News traveled fast, even faster than fear. Sephu and his men were on the move. Children had been gathered inside the old meeting house. Elders sat around them, whispering prayers under their breath. Mothers tied protective charms around their children's wrists. Old women walked from doorstep to doorstep, burning herbs and blowing smoke toward the sky for protection. But Zuri stood apart from all this. She stood at the edge of the great clearing, staff in hand, her cloak stirring in the wind. She watched the horizon, waited, listened. She was not alone. Beside her stood Cato, tall and stern, the flame of determination burning in his chest. Around them gathered the warriors of Dalani and the nearby villages, men and women who had once laid down their weapons after Sephu's fall, but now took them up again because there was no choice left. And somewhere behind them, sitting near the great fire, Nia wrapped her arms around herself and looked toward Zuri with silent hope, silent fear. Cato spoke first. Zuri, if we turn back now, the village will not blame us. Zuri breathed deep. Her voice was soft, but it carried. No, if we turn back, the village will not blame us, but we will blame ourselves. The wind paused as if listening. We stand now not just for ourselves, she continued, but for every child who deserves to grow without chains. For every mother who deserves to wake without fear. For every elder who deserves peace in their final days. For every future that has not yet been shaped. She lifted her staff. The wood glowed faintly with the echo of ancient power. We have already won because we stand together. And those words, simple, clear, unshaken, settled into every chest like fire. As twilight thickened into evening, the drums began. Slow, deep, like the beating of the earth's hidden heart. Boom, boom, boom. Their rhythm echoed across valley and river, up hills and through trees. Zuri didn't need to ask. Everyone knew this rhythm. It was the warrior's call, the signal that every village within hearing distance should stand ready, whether with spear or prayer, strength or courage. Fires were lit along the pathways. Warriors tied bands of cloth around their arms, some red for courage, some white for protection, some black for remembrance. Children inside the meeting house began to sing the old songs, not to be brave, but because singing was the only thing that kept tears from rising. Nia rose from the fire and walked to Zuri. Her voice was quiet. Do you think we will return from this? Zuri looked at her, and though her heart trembled, her answer did not. We will return changed. But yes, we will return. Nia stepped forward and, without words, rested her forehead against Zuri's. 2 breaths became one. 2 hearts aligned in silence. Then Nia pressed something into Zuri's hand. A small carved shape, an ibis, the bird of wisdom and journey. For guidance, Nia whispered. Zuri closed her fingers around it. For home, she replied. Night fell fully. The sky above was pure darkness. Stars shimmered like distant eyes watching. And then, a line of torches appeared at the far edge of the plain. A slow-moving river of fire. Sephu's forces. Dozens upon dozens of silhouettes. Shadows approaching like a living tide. The air tightened. But Zuri did not move. She stood still as a pillar of stone. Cato looked to her. Your word. Zuri raised her staff, not high but steady. We hold. We do not strike in anger. We protect. The warriors nodded, every one of them. No one shouted. No one taunted. No one trembled. Only the drums continued. Steady. Powerful. unstoppable. Then from the darkness, a voice cold, familiar, sharp as broken bone, called out. Zuri-I. Sefu's voice. The torches halted. The earth seemed to hold its breath. Zuri stepped forward just enough for her silhouette to be clearly seen in the firelight. I am here. For a long moment, no one moved. Nothing stirred. The world was balanced on a thread. And the chapter closed not in battle, not in violence, but in the stillness before the storm, the moment where courage is measured, and destinies prepare to break open like thunder. The night air hung thick and heavy, charged like the sky before a lightning storm. The torches from Sefu's approaching ranks flickered like serpents' tongues, casting long and shifting shadows across the open field. The drums had fallen silent now. All that remained was the hush of wind through grass, and the sound of breath, hundreds of breaths, waiting. Zuri stood at the front of her people, staff in hand, cloak brushing the earth. Her eyes were fixed forward, calm and unwavering. Across the field, Sefu emerged from the line of torches. He was dressed in deep charcoal robes, layered leather armor, and a long cloak that trailed behind him like night itself. A crown of twisted metal sat upon his brow, part symbol, part warning. He walked forward alone. Kato tensed. One step forward, ready to shield Zuri, but she lifted a hand ever so slightly. Stop. Kato froze. Sefu's voice carried through the air, cold and strangely smooth. Zuri, the prodigal daughter of destiny, returned from dust and myth, bearing wisdom that does not belong to her. Zuri did not respond. Words had power, yes, but silence had its own. Sefu's lips twisted into something almost like a smile. If you kneel now, if your people lower their weapons, no blood will spill tonight. The land will remember mercy instead of grief. A murmur rippled through the line of warriors behind Zuri. Fear, doubt, hunger for safety. Zuri did not move. I have seen mercy, she said, her voice clear as moonlight. Real mercy restores. Yours only recoils. It binds and takes. That is not mercy. It is hunger wearing jewelry. A soft gasp sounded behind Sefu's men. Even they had not expected her to speak like that. Sefu's expression hardened. He stepped closer. So you have chosen stubbornness? No, Zuri replied. I have chosen truth. The silence that followed was something vast, like the sky before dawn, like the ocean before a wave rises. Sefu's eyes shifted to the warriors behind her. To stand with her is to stand against the only order that has held this land together. Think carefully, Dalani. Think carefully, all of you. He lifted his hand, slowly, deliberately, and at that gesture, the torches behind him dimmed, not extinguished, just dimmed, as if the flames themselves were unsure, wavering under something unseen. A presence moved across the field, something ancient, something heavy, something that did not belong fully to the world of men. Zuri felt it, in the crackle of the air, in the shudder of the ground beneath her feet, in the quiet part of her heart where memory and intuition met. She closed her eyes. She breathed. You're not alone. The voice was not spoken, but known. The voice that had walked behind her since childhood. The voice of the old ways. The voice of the ancestors. When she opened her eyes again, the fear that had tremored inside her dissolved like mist. Zuri took one step forward. Just one. It was not dramatic, not grand, but the earth recognized it. The wind shifted direction. The grass bowed. We will not move, she said. This ground is ours. Not by conquest, not by decree, but by memory, sweat, story, song, and birth. We do not claim power. We claim belonging. Kato lifted his spear, not toward the enemy, but straight up toward the night sky. One by one, the warriors around him did the same. A forest of raised spears. A declaration not of attack, but of standing. Sefu stared. For the first time, there was no arrogance in his eyes. No smooth certainty. Only calculation. As if he struggled to measure something he had never understood before. The power of a people who refused to kneel. Zuri lowered her staff and placed its end upon the earth. The ground responded, not with shaking, but with stillness. a stillness that said, "We are here. We are unbroken. We will not uproot." Sefiu's cloak stirred in the rising wind. His jaw tightened. "This is your final choice?" he asked. "Yes," Zuri answered. "No matter what comes." And then, Sefiu turned his back. He walked back toward his ranks. The torches brightened again. The line of shadows shifted. And every heart watching knew. The storm had not ended. It had simply been claimed. Night deepened. The warriors did not lower their spears. The people did not leave their places. The fires burned into the late hours. And somewhere above, the stars rearranged themselves, as if preparing for the next chapter in the story of a land that refused to bow.